Here we go. All right, so that's going to be preparing the live there. Okay, so we're going to be Shalom, everyone. We're live. I'm Brother Doug with Awakened by Yahuwah Assembly, Yahuwah Almighty, Yahushua Messiah. So today we are going to be continuing our half Torah readings, our Torah portions. I will be starting us off in Numbers 8 to chapter 8 to chapter 12. All right, here we go. So Numbers 8 to 12. Let's see here, there's my sword. All right. Here we go. Numbers 8. And I'll be reading from the Brenton's English Septuagint here. Okay. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, "Speak to Aaron, and you shall say to him, whenever you shall set the lamps in order, the 7 lamps shall give light to the opposite candlestick." So this is talking about the menorah here. Okay. Verse 3. Aaron did so. And Aaron did so. On one side, opposite the candlestick, he lighted its lamps as Yahuwah appointed Moshe. And this is the construction of the candlestick: solid, golden, its stem and its lilies, all solid, according to the pattern which Yahuwah showed Moshe. So he made the candlestick. Okay, verse 5. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, "Take the Levites out of the midst of the children of Yasharel, and you shall purify them. Thus shall you perform their purification. You shall sprinkle them with water of purification, and a razor shall come upon the whole of their body, and they shall wash their garments and shall be clean." So here's another instance where shaving your hair is not a sin. Okay, he's actually telling Moshe to shave the hair off of their body to set them apart for the priesthood. Okay. All right. It says they shall wash their garments and they shall be clean. And they shall take 1 calf of the herd and its grain offering, fine flour mingled with oil, and you shall take a calf of a year old of the herd for a sin offering. Oh, enough, YouTube, enough. All right. And you shall bring the Levites before the tabernacle of witness. You shall assemble all the congregation of the sons of Yasharel, and you shall bring the Levites before Yahuwah, and the sons of Yasharel shall lay their hands upon the Levites, and Aaron shall separate the Levites for a gift offering before Yahuwah from the children of Yasharel. Hold on a second, I'm hearing like a little bit of background here. Let me just double check here. Okay, I got it. All right, here we go. All right, back to the screen here. All right. It's weird that it doesn't want to. There we go. All right, back to verse 11 here. And Aaron shall separate the Levites for a gift before Yahuwah for the children of Yasharel, and they shall be prepared to perform the works of Yahuwah. And the Levites shall lay their hands on the heads of the calves. And you shall offer one for a sin offering and the other for a whole burnt offering to Yahuwah to make atonement for them. And you shall set the Levites before Yahuwah and before Aaron and before his sons, and you shall give them as a gift before Yahuwah. And you shall separate the Levites from the midst of the sons of Yasharel. They shall be mine. And afterwards the Levites shall go and perform the works of the tabernacle of witness, and you shall purify them and present them before Yahuwah. For these are given to me for a present out of the midst of the children of Yasharel. I have taken them to myself instead of all the firstborn of the sons of Yasharel that open every womb. For every firstborn among the children of Yasharel, mine. Whether of man or of beast, in the day in which I smote every firstborn in the land of Egypt, I set them apart to myself. And I took the Levites in place of the firstborn among the children of Yasharel. And I gave the Levites presented as a gift to Aaron and his sons out of the midst of the children of Yasharel to do service of the children of Yasharal in the tabernacle of witness, and to make atonement for the children of Yasharal, there shall be none among the sons of Yasharal to draw near to the set apart things. And Moshe and Aaron, all the congregation of the children of Yasharal, did to the Levites as Yahuwah commanded Moshe concerning the Levites. So the sons of Yasharal did to them. So the Levites purified themselves and washed their garments, and Aaron presented them as a gift before Yahuwah, and Aaron made atonement for them to purify them. And afterwards, the Levites went to minister in their service in the tabernacle witness before Aaron, before his sons, as Yahuwah appointed Moshe concerning the Levites, so they did to them. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, this is the ordinance for the Levites from 25 years old and upwards, they shall go in to minister in the tabernacle of witness. And yeah, if you have the Masoretic text, it would say 30. So here we go. Here, verse 25. And from 50 years old, the Levites shall cease from the ministry and shall not work any longer. And his brother shall serve in the tabernacle of witness to keep charges, but he shall not do works. So shall you do to the Levites in their charges. Okay, so pretty much self-explanatory here. I think we're going to jump to the next chapter. I don't see much really to expound on there. So, all right, just get back on the page here. All right, so Mom, can you pick up and read chapter 9?
Yes. Yahuwah spoke to Moshe in the desert of Sinai in the first month of the second year after they came out of Egypt. He said, have the children of Israel celebrate the Passover at the appointed time. Celebrate it at the appointed time at twilight on the 14th day of this month, in accordance with all its rules and regulations. So Moshe told the children of Israel to celebrate the Passover, and they did so in the desert of Sinai at twilight on the 14th day of the first month. The children of Israel did everything just as Yahuwah commanded Moshe. But some of them could not celebrate the Passover on that day because they were ceremonially unclean on account of a dead body. So they came to Moshe and Aaron that same day and said to Moshe, we have become unclean because of a dead body, but why should we be kept from presenting Yahuwah's offering with the other children of Israel at the appointed time? Moshe answered them, wait until I find out what Yahuwah commands concerning you. Then Yahuwah said to Moshe, tell the children of Israel, when any of you or your descendants are unclean because of a dead body or are away on a journey, they may still celebrate Yahuwah's Passover. They are to celebrate it on the 14th day of the second month at twilight. They are to eat the lamb together with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They must not leave any of it till morning or break any of its bones. When they celebrate the Passover, they must follow all the regulations. But if a man who is ceremonially clean and not on a journey fails to celebrate the Passover, that person must be cut off from his people because he did not present Yahuwah's offering at the appointed time. That man will bear the consequences of his sin. An alien living among you who wants to celebrate Yahuwah's Passover must do so in accordance with its rules and regulations. You must have the same regulations for the alien and the native born. On the day the tabernacle, the tent of the testimony, was set up, the cloud covered it. From evening till morning, the cloud above the tabernacle looked like fire. That is how it continued to be. the cloud covered it, and at night it looked like fire. Whenever the cloud lifted from above the tent, the children of Israel set out. Whenever the cloud settled, the children of Israel encamped. At Yahuwah's command, the children of Israel set out, and at his command they encamped. As long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle, they remained in camp. When the cloud remained over the tabernacle a long time, the children of Israel obeyed Yahuwah's order and did not set out. Sometimes the cloud was over the tabernacle only a few days. At Yahuwah's command, they would encamp, and then at his command, they would set out. Sometimes the cloud stayed only from evening till morning, and when it lifted in the morning, they set out. Whether by day or by night, whenever the cloud lifted, they set out. Whether the cloud stayed over the tabernacle for 2 days or a month or a year, the children of Israel would remain in camp and not set out. But when it lifted, they would set out. At Yahuwah's command, they encamped, and at Yahuwah's command, they set out. They obeyed Yahuwah's order in accordance with his command through Moshe. Want me to keep going?
That was
9.
That was 9. Okay, I'll pick up at 10.
All right.
Trying to think. It's pretty much self-explanatory here. You have the second Passover, very specific reasons you can't keep. If you can't keep the first one, pretty much. I mean, a lot of the reasons that we're that Yahuwah gives, we can't really claim today. A journey afar off, that's not really valid today when there's no temple to begin with, and we are all scattered. So you can't really claim that realistically. The only allowance we can say that we need to wait until the second month would be, you could be unclean by a relative dying or someone dying next to you. You would be unclean for a certain period that possibly you wouldn't be clean by the time it's the 14th of Abib. And again, so we did a study last night about ceremonial uncleanness. Now, let's say hypothetically speaking, right? The only way that you would wait until the second month would be is if you technically became ceremonially unclean by a dead body, like close to the 14th of Abib. So what I'm saying is, say, on Abib 1, you had to handle a dead body or whatever, you went to a funeral or whatever, you still have about 14 days to be clean. So you would have a 14-day period from that day you became unclean until then. You would be clean by the time it's Passover. So that's what I'm trying to say. So unless you're you're becoming unclean very close to Passover, really we can't even use that reason to keep it in the second month. So those two main reasons back then, the first main reason we obviously can't use at all, with no temple and there's not a Levitical priesthood in place, so there's no reason to go to Jerusalem for the feast at this point. You can't really claim that we're a journey afar off. The other reason, ceremonially unclean, that's a technicality if you would be ceremonially unclean at the time of Passover. So I think very few of us have ever been ceremonially unclean like right before Passover is taking place. It's obviously possible, but very unlikely. Like I said, you would have had to become unclean by the time there's only like a week before the Passover or something. You know what I'm saying? So like it's very unlikely that you would have to worry about that. But either way, so anyway, so I think we're gonna move on to chapter 10 here. All right, let's go to chapter 10. Numbers chapter 10. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, take to yourself 2 silver trumpets. You shall make them of beaten work. they shall be to you for the purpose of the calling the assembly and of removing the camps. You shall sound with them, and all the congregation shall be gathered to the door of the tabernacle witness, and they shall sound with one. All rulers, even the princes of Yashral, shall come to you. They shall sound an alarm, and the camps pitched eastward shall begin to move, and you shall sound a second alarm. And the camps pitched southward shall move, and you shall sound a third alarm. And the camps pitched westward shall move toward, and you shall sound a fourth alarm, and they that encamp toward the north shall move forward, they that sound an alarm at their departure. And whenever you shall gather the assembly, you shall sound, but not an alarm. And the priests, the sons of Aaron, shall sound with the trumpets, and it shall be a perpetual ordinance for you throughout your generations. Okay. Verse 9 here. And if you shall go forth to war in your land against your enemies that are opposed to you, then shall you sound with the trumpets, and you shall be had in remembrance before Yahuwah. You shall be saved from your enemies. And in the days of your gladness, in your feast, and in your new moons, you shall sound with trumpets at your whole burnt offerings and at the sacrifices of your peace offerings, and there shall be a memorial for you before Yahuwah, your Elohim. I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. So usually this is the response I give to people that say, well, the Day of Atonement, you're only commanded to blow the trumpet when it's the Jubilee. But I would point them to this verse saying, in general, Yahuwah is saying that we're to be blowing our trumpets in all this, in all the Moedim. So either way, there's still a commandment to blow them on those days. So regardless whether the current Day of Atonement is on the Jubilee or not. So anyway, verse 11. And it came to pass in the second year, in the second month, on the 20th day of the month, the cloud went up from the tabernacle witness, and the children of Yashral set forward with their baggage in the wilderness of Sinai, and the cloud rested in the wilderness of Paran. And the first rank departed by the word of Yahuwah, by the hand of Masha. Interesting. And they first set in motion the order of the camp, and the children of Yehuda with their army, and over their army was Naasson, son of Aminadab, and over their army of the tribe of the sons of Issachar was Nathaniel, son of Sugar, and over the army of the tribe of the sons of Zabulon was Eliab, son of Helon. And they shall take down the tabernacle, and the sons of Gershon shall set forward, and the sons of Merari who bear the tabernacle. Okay. And the order of the camp of Reuben set forward with their army, and over their army was Eleazar, the son of Sedir. And over the army of the tribe of Simeon was Salamiel, the son of Zuri Shaddai. Okay. So we're at, guys, we're at Numbers 10, I believe, what, Mom? Verse 20 or 21?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, verse 20. All right, so we're at Numbers 10, verse 20. All right, and over the army of the tribe of children of Gad was Eliasaph, son of Raguel, and the sons of Kohath. So this is, again, part of the Levites here, the Kohathites. Shall set forward, bearing the set apart things, and the others shall set up the tabernacle until they arrive. And the order of the camp of Ephraim shall set forward with their forces, and over their forces was Elisama, son of Semiud. Verse 23. And over the forces of the tribes of the sons of Manasseh was Gamliel, the son of Padasur. And over the forces of the tribe of the children of Benjamin was Abidan, son of Gedoni. Verse 25. And the order of the camp of the sons of Dan shall set forward. The last of all the camps with their forces, over their forces was Achiezer, son of Ammishaddai. And over the forces of the tribe of the sons of Asher was Pagiel, son of Akron. And over the forces of the tribes of Naphtali was Akir, the son of Anan. And these armies, the children of Yashrael, they set forward with their forces. And Masha said to Ubab, the son of Raguel the Midianite, the father-in-law of Masha, we are going forward to the place concerning which Yahuwah said, this will I give to you. Come with us, and we will do you too. For Yahuwah has spoken to concerning Yasharal. He said to him, I will not go, but I will go to my land and to my kindred. And he said, leave us not, because you have not been with us in the wilderness, and you shall be an elder among us. And it shall come to pass, if you will go with us, it shall even come to pass that in whatsoever things Yahuwah shall do us to, we will also do you to. And they departed from the mountain of Yahuwah 3 days' journey, and the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah was before them 3 days' journey to provide rest for them. So interesting parallel there. The 3 days' journey and the ark is giving them rest. How Yahusha says, my yoke is easy, I will give you rest. It's very interesting. Verse 34, and the cloud overshadowed them by day when they departed from the camp. And it came to pass when the ark set forward that Moshe said, arise, O Yahuwah, and let your enemies be scattered. Let all that hate you flee. And in the resting, he said, turn again, O Yahuwah, the thousands and 10,000s in Yasharal. So we see a little parallel between Yasharal and Yahuwah's myriads of angels. You'll see in the book of Jude where it talks about the day of Yahuwah, the day of his wrath, he returns with 10,000s of set apart ones. So very interesting. So Numbers chapter 11. And the people murmured sinfully before Yahuwah, and Yahuwah heard them and was very angry. The fire was kindled among them from Yahuwah and devoured part of the camp. So this is why I believe spiritually even application to not kindle a fire on the Sabbath, which by the way is also hinted at in Isaiah 58. Don't say a word in anger and all that. Verse 2, and the people cried to Masha, and Masha prayed to Yahuwah, and fire was quenched. And the name of that place is called Burning, for a fire was kindled among them from Yahuwah. And the mixed multitude among them lusted exceedingly. They and the children of Yashrael sat down and wept and said, who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we ate in Egypt freely, and the cucumbers, and the melons, and the leeks, and the garlic, and the onions. But now our soul is dried up, and our eyes turned into nothing but the manna. And the manna is as coriander seed, and appearance of it, the appearance of hoarfrost. So again, like, it's not like Yahuwah is starving them. He's giving them food to eat. They're just being mumblers and complainers. And the people went through the field and gathered and ground it in the mill and pounded it in a mortar and baked it in a pan and made cakes of it. The sweetness of it was like the taste of a wafer made with oil. When the dew came upon the camp by night, the manna came down upon it. And Masha heard them weeping by their families, every one in his door. And Yahuwah was very angry. The thing was evil in the sight of Masha. Masha said to Yahuwah, why have you afflicted your servant? Why have I not found favor in your sight, that you should lay the weight of this people under me? Have I conceived all this people, or have I borne them, that you say to me, take them into your bosom, as a nurse would take her suckling into the land which you swore to their fathers? Where have I flesh to give to all this people? For they weep to me, saying, give us flesh, that we may eat. I shall not be able to bear this people alone, for this thing is too heavy for me. If you do thus to me, slay me utterly. If I have found favor with you, that I may not see my affliction. So basically, Moshe's like, just kill me already, get it over with. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, stupid thing. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, gather me 70 men from the elders of Yashrael, whom you yourself know that they are elders of the people, and their scribes, and you shall bring them to the tabernacle witness, and they shall stand there with you. Funny thing to note, guess how many countries came out of the Tower of Babel? Mm-hmm. What's the exact number? Yes. 70. Mm-hmm. How many principalities he would have put? 70. Interesting. So, it's pretty interesting. So there's a parallel between Israel and the messengers. Interesting. And I will go down and speak there with you, and I will take of your spirit that is upon you, and I will put upon them, and they shall bear together with you the burden of the people, and you shall not bear them alone. And to the people you shall say, purify yourselves for the morrow, and you shall eat flesh. For you wept before Yahuwah, saying, who shall give us flesh to eat? For it is well with us in Egypt, and Yahuwah shall allow you to eat flesh, and you shall eat flesh. Okay, you shall not eat 1 day, nor 2, nor 5 days, nor 10 days, nor 20 days. You shall eat for a full month until flesh comes out of your nostrils, and shall be nausea to you, or nauseating, you could say, because you disobeyed Yahuwah, who is among you, and wept before him, saying, what had we to do to come out of Egypt? And Moshe said, the people among whom I am are 600,000 footmen. And you said, I will give them flesh to eat, and they shall eat a whole month. And shall sheep and oxen be slain for them? And shall it suffice them? Or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them? And shall it suffice them? And Yahuwah said to Moshe, shall not the hand of Yahuwah be sufficient? Now shall you know whether my word shall come to pass to you or not. Interesting. Shall not the hand of Yahuwah be fully sufficient? Interesting. So, by the way, that's Yahusha being referred to there. That idiom, the hand of Yahuwah, refers to Yahusha, pre-incarnate. So verse 24, Moshe went out and spoke the words of Yahuwah to the people, and he gathered 70 men of the elders of Yashrael and set them round about the tabernacle. And Yahuwah came down in a cloud and spoke to him, and took of the spirit that was upon him, and put it upon the 70 men that were elders. When the spirit rested upon them, they prophesied and ceased, and there were 2 men left in the camp. The name of one was Eldad, and the other Amudad. And the spirit was resting upon them, and these were the number of them that were enrolled. But they did not come to the tabernacle, and they prophesied in the camp. And a young man ran and told Moshe and spoke, saying, Eldad and Mudad prophesy in the camp, and Yahusha, son of Nun, who attend on Moshe, the chosen one, said, my master, Moshe, forbid them. Hey, Mom, does your version say that Joshua is the chosen one? Hold on. I'm just curious.
No, it just says,
interesting.
Yahusha, son of Nun, who had been Moshe's aide since youth.
Interesting.
No, it doesn't say anything like
that. I'm just curious to see if that's actually in the Greek. So that'd be interesting. Yeah, his chosen one. Yeah, very interesting. Because chosen one is like an idiom for a Messiah. So it's very interesting. Yeah. Verse 29, and Moshe said to him, are you jealous on my account? Would that all of Yahuwah's people were prophets, whenever Yahuwah shall put his spirit upon them. And Moshe departed into the camp himself and the elders of Yasharal. And there went forth a wind from Yahuwah and brought quails over them from the sea, and it brought them down upon the camp a day's journey on the side and a day's journey on that side, round about the camp, as it were 2 cubits from the earth. And the people rose up all the day and all the night and the next day and gathered quails. He that gathered the least gathered 10 measures, and they refreshed themselves round about the camp. And the flesh was yet between their teeth before it failed, when Yahuwah was angry with the people. Yahuwah smote the people with a very great plague. And the name of that place was called the Graves of Lust, for they buried the people that lusted. And the people departed from the graves of lust to Asheroth. The people halted at Ashtaroth. And yes, Ashtaroth is also the name of Nimrod's wife / mother. So there was probably a land that you probably had worshipers of Ashtaroth name that land after her. So anyway, yeah. All right, so there's nothing much else to really say about that chapter. I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. You have the lusting after the meat. Go ahead, Sister Marissa.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I had my hand up for a while. Maybe it's not. I don't know if it's coming up or not. But so when you mentioned about the kindling of the fire, that's a very touchy subject for a lot of people. So I don't exactly understand, what does that mean? I mean, I've heard several things. Kindling a fire means that you don't work at a factory where fire is needed. I've heard that kindling as a fire is controversial, because in the middle of the winter, how are you supposed to warm up your house if you have a fireplace or something like that? So
Yeah.
I know it's a very touchy subject with a lot of people regarding kindling a fire. I mean, does that
Yeah.
mean that you can't cook on the Sabbath? You know, I mean, I know there's a lot of Talmudic things that have to do with that particular verse, but can you kind of elaborate a little bit more in depth about what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that you can't light a match on the Sabbath? I mean, you can't cook on the Sabbath?
Yeah, well, not that verse in particular, but there's another command that actually verbatimly tells us not to cook on the Sabbath. So that verse doesn't have to do with cooking on the Sabbath in context, but there is a verse, I think, where's it, Mom? Exodus 16, I believe, the manna and all that, or gives the quail and all that. That chapter specifically iterates that you are to cook what you are to cook on the 6th day, and preparation day, and the 7th you are to lay it up for the 7th day. So basically, even in the wilderness, he told them to gather double during the week, so that my bad, let me correct myself. Gather double on preparation day, have double the amount of food, so that what you cook on the 6th day will carry over into the Sabbath, so you don't have to cook on the Sabbath. So there is an actual verse that talks about not to cook on the Sabbath. As far as the kindling of the fire, camping, anyone that's camped in their lifetime will understand what this verse is talking about. When you kindle a fire, it's not just like lighting a fire or putting a match to something. Kindling a fire would be you physically doing work also, because you're going into the woods, you're chopping down wood with an axe, and you're bringing that wood into your home or wherever you're putting it, in a pit or whatever, and you're starting a fire. So what Yahuwah is trying to say here is, he's commanding here, is you cannot start a fire on the Sabbath. You cannot bring wood and then chop down wood from the forest and then bring it into your house and physically kindle a fire on the Sabbath. Now, as far as keeping the fire going, there's nothing wrong with that. So in the winter, people would keep the fire going that they started the previous night. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay to throw wood onto the fire. That's not what he's talking about. He's not talking about keeping a fire going. He's talking about actually starting, um, actually physically kindling a fire on the Sabbath. Like if you're in the Boy Scouts or anything, kindling a fire, you're rubbing, you know, two pieces of wood together to start a fire. So he's actually talking about starting a fire. He's not talking about keeping a fire going.
Okay, so does that also constitute a gas stove? I mean, you're not.
No, I don't believe that. No, because he's talking about in their context, there would be no such thing as gas stoves back then. And gas stoves, say I'm making myself some tea, right? And I turn the stove on to heat up some water. That's not contradicting that commandment. I'm not kindling a fire.
So that's the
Um,
same thing as you. Let's say you want to warm up some food. Okay, so let's just. I'm just trying to
mhm,
make sense of this. You
mhm,
want to warm up some food that you prepared the
yeah,
day before, and you
yeah.
turn on your gas stove. That's
Mhm.
fire.
Yeah, but it's not starting a fire. It's not kindling the fire in the context that you was talking about. So you're fine with doing that. What would be kindling a fire would be you literally gathering wood, chopping down wood from a tree outside, bringing it, and then physically kindling a fire. So if you're not doing that, you're not breaking that command. So yeah, I know where you're coming from, sis. I know of some of the Talmudic stuff too. They'll go as far as to say you can't turn on lights. Yeah, you can't. Oh, I know all about that
Use
stuff.
a microwave.
You can't use a microwave, this or that. Even though a microwave is not healthy to use, but if that's your only option to heat up stuff, it's not a commandment not to be able to use electricity. That's
Okay,
not what.
so a fire that is lit the day before with a match can be continuously kept burning as long as you just add wood to it. That's
Yeah,
not kindling.
yeah.
That's
If
not
you're
kindling, right?
if you're not like if you're not physically actually like kindling a fire on the Sabbath, you can't be breaking that commandment because if you're keeping a fire going, naturally people would have to do that during the winter. They would have to keep a fire going and throw wood that's already pre-chopped, that's already been brought in from the day before. Kindling the fire in that in a context of the Hebraic culture would have been like you're going out on the Sabbath, chopping out wood from the forest, bringing it in, and starting from scratch, kindling a fire from scratch. Like actually starting a fire. Um, a lot of us that have done Boy Scouts like me, I totally understand what that verse is actually in context talking about. And brothers like Zach, I think, would agree that that's what in context is talking about. That actually have been camping enough times, actually been, some brothers and sisters we have that are actually living out by the woods on homesteads would actually understand that concept. A lot of us that are in the cities don't understand that concept, and sometimes we get deceived into taking it into a rabbinical interpretation and start adding stuff to scripture.
Okay, so
Um,
brother Joshua says, is it breaking Shabbat by spreading some peanut butter and jelly on a piece of bread and eating it? I don't think so.
no. Who said that? Joshua said that? I don't
Yeah,
think so. I think he's being a little facetious here.
yeah,
I
that's
think he's
funny.
joking around. Oh no, that's brother Ray. Okay, yeah, Ray. Yeah, no, it's not. That is definitely not.
Not at all.
First of all, the peanut butter's already cooked. The bread, all you're doing is heating it up in a toaster. Again, electricity using just so all the viewers and listeners understand here, using electricity of itself is not kindling a fire. Okay, like I said, any camper, any homesteader would tell you the same. Anyone that's knows the original definition of what kindling a fire means, that is not the same thing. Me, because technically right now we're using electricity. I am on a mobile device on Zoom. That is not kindling a fire. I mean, if we start like generalizing that to just turning on fire or turning on electricity, that's ridiculous. So no, I don't believe that's what Yahuwah meant by kindling a fire. He meant basically you're physically starting from scratch a fire on the Sabbath. Like, for example, right, we see in Numbers, what is it, Mom? 15, a man gathers sticks on the Sabbath day. Most likely he was trying to kindle a fire on the Sabbath. Most likely. Can't really say for sure whether I know for a fact that's the case. But the guy that got stoned in Numbers 15, he got stoned for gathering sticks from the woods, from gathering, pieces of wood on the Sabbath day. The only common sense thing would be that he's trying to start a fire on the Sabbath.
Now, Brother Doug, why do you think the Father made this particular commandment to us not to kindle a fire? I'm just trying to understand, why was it so important not to do this on the Sabbath?
Because it would be work. It would actually connect to other commandments on the Sabbath. You're actually working to have to kindle a fire. A lot of us don't understand this because we're in the year 2022, but back then it took a lot of work to start a fire. You're rubbing two sticks together. Like, even if you go camping, right? Say you got no lighter, no matches, right? You got to rub two sticks together until they spark. That's a lot of work. That would be working on the Sabbath to me too. So you're almost breaking two commands at the same time. So when we actually look at the original historical context of what kindling a fire meant, we'll understand that part of the concept is Yahuwah doesn't want us to work. He wants us to enjoy his set apart day with our brothers and sisters and thinking of him. Also kindling a fire, I'm pretty sure would have to do with cooking in that concept. Back then their ovens were like clay firepot ovens where they would have to start a fire in it. It was almost like a fireplace type of oven. So I believe that's even connected to cooking too. I mean, you could say, yeah, they were using it to keep warm. I get it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it connects to the cooking too. But I could say definitely it's work either way, because unless you're chopping extra wood on preparation day from the forest, you would most likely to start or fully start or kindle a fire on the Sabbath day. You would have to go into the woods, chop branches down from the tree, chop wood down with an axe, bring it into the home, walk back into the home, and then you would have to freshly start a fire. That's a lot of work. So I would say at the minimum, the purpose of it was to keep us from having to work on the Sabbath. And then also you have the spiritual concept. It connects spiritually, where fire a lot of the times in scripture spiritually connects to anger. And we see that in Isaiah 58, this is what I was saying before when I was reading through the chapter, was that I believe there's also not just a physical application to this command, but a spiritual application, that we should be more aware than usual in saying a word in anger, to not kindle a fire spiritually, even on this set apart day of his. Because you see, like he says it literally in Isaiah 58, if you would take pleasure in my set apart day, not say a word in anger. He spiritualizes this kindling the fire as speaking in anger. So a lot of us, I know me and a couple other brothers and sisters, we do believe that it's not just a physical thing. You also got to be mindful of not kindling a fire spiritually with your brothers and sisters on the Shabbat. So I would say there's multiple applications to that command too. There's a physical aspect of it and a spiritual aspect of it. A lot of times we sometimes only focus on the physical starting a fire and don't think about, are we kindling a fire spiritually with our brothers and sisters? Are we saying a word out of anger, and all that? So yeah. So that's the best way I could describe it. But if you look at, I mean, you could do your own research about what kindling a fire literally was. back in those times, it was not turning on a light. It was not heating something up on the stove. That's not what kindling a fire was. And most of the time it had to do with, it was connected to actually physically chopping down wood to bring it to the home to fully start a fire, not to keep a fire going. So that it was connected to that. So that's another thing too. So a lot of us don't understand this because we don't live out in the woods, and we really are, we're not self-sufficient in things like that. And even today, I think, Mom, right, there's electronic fireplaces now.
Oh,
Most people don't even in the
gas
city
and electric.
most people don't even
fireplaces,
use
yes.
old school fireplaces
No,
anymore.
right.
And unless you're out in a homestead or out in the Ozarks and all that,
Right.
a lot of us out in the city don't, probably wouldn't even know how to use a fireplace nowadays.
I remember when we would go on vacation where in the house where my mother grew up, they had wood burning stoves as their source.
Yeah.
And they would make their meals on the wood burning stoves. And I'll tell you, I remember that as a child watching what they did to try to bring across a meal,
Yeah. All right. So I think we're going to start a new recording a little bit, but I think we'll take a minor break. We're going to be going to the prophets portion soon. I think we got, I got to double check, but I think we're going to Zechariah next.
You didn't want to read chapter 12?
Oh, chapter 12. My bad. I didn't realize we
Yeah.
didn't do 12 yet. Okay. Yeah. Let me do 12 real quick. Let me get back on the page here. And I apologize, Sister Marissa, for not seeing your hand earlier, but I think when I'm on the shared screen here, it doesn't allow me to multitask for some reason. So that's my fault, though.
No worries.
Let me see. Numbers 12. Miriam and Aaron spoke to Moshe because the Ethiopian woman whom Moshe took, for he had taken an Ethiopian woman. And they said, has Yahuwah spoken to Moshe? Only has he not spoken to us? And Yahuwah heard it. And the man, Moshe, was very meek beyond all men that were upon the earth. And Yahuwah said immediately to Moshe and Aaron and Miriam, come for all three of you to the tabernacle witness. And three came forth to the tabernacle witness. And Yahuwah descended in a pillar of cloud and stood at the door of the tabernacle witness. And Aaron and Miriam were called, both came forth. And he said to them, hear my words. If there should be of you a prophet to Yahuwah, I will be made known to him in a vision, and in sleep I speak to him. My servant Moshe, not so. He is trustworthy in all my house. I will speak to him mouth to mouth apparently, and not in dark speeches. He has seen the splendor of Yahuwah, again, referring to Yahusha there. Another title for Yahusha, the esteem of Yahuwah, the splendor of Yahuwah. And why were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moshe? And the great anger of Yahuwah was upon them, and he departed. And the cloud departed from the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam was leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said to Moshe, I beseech you, my master, do not lay sin upon us, for we were ignorant wherein we sinned. And let her not be as it were death, as an abortion coming out of the mother's womb. Wow, that's interesting. When the disease devours the half of the flesh. So it's interesting. Breton decides to translate that Greek word as abortion. That's interesting. So I'm assuming around his time period that abortion started becoming popular. See, 1851. Yeah, probably around then they started doing abortions a lot, or it started becoming more prevalent in the Western culture. Yeah. So verse 13, Moshe cried to Yahuwah, saying, O Elohim, I beseech you, heal her. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, if her father had only spit in her face, would she not be ashamed 7 days? So this is talking about what we did a study of last night, ceremonial uncleanness and all that. Let her be set apart for 7 days without the camp, outside the camp, and afterwards she shall come in. And Miriam was separated outside the camp 7 days, and the people moved not forward till Miriam was cleansed. And afterwards the people set forth from Asheroth and encamped in the wilderness of Paran. So we see here how jealousy can creep in, the enemy can creep in. I find it interesting, though, that anyone that believes that it's wrong to marry outside your tribe, to marry outside your ethnicity, that it would be a sin to do that. Right here, we see that Yahuwah is defending Masha for having an Ethiopian wife. So there's nothing wrong with having a physically born Gentile wife. Okay. So Yahuwah never put a prerequisite for all the patriarchs to marry inside their own household. So anyway. So okay. So we're gonna start a new recording a little bit, but I think we're gonna take a break, like I said. So that was the end. Yeah, well, I wouldn't say sis abortion started back then, but abortion became legal in 1973 case. They were always doing abortions. It's just that it never became legal in this country. Lancelot Brenton, he's from Britain. So the fact that he's using that terminology in 1851 kind of shows how ancient that practice was, and that, obviously, even from the Book of Enoch on, pretty much humankind was always doing abortions, but it was never legal according to law, court of law. Probably in the days of Noah, it was legal because there seemed to be no pushback by any of whoever were their rulers at that time, which I believe in the pre-flood era, there's a couple of extra biblical sources that seem to claim that the Watchers were actually their rulers. So, yeah, I mean, if those guys are your rulers, then that's the government you're under. There's going to be chaos everywhere. So, yeah, that was part of the problem of the pre-flood world. You had no righteous governors or judges or anything. There was no Torah abiding. They technically, bro, they did have time to rule because, again, when we understand the divine council concept of Psalms 82, you'll understand that Yahuwah originally put them as rulers over the pagan nations for them to actually take care of the pagans and actually rule them with righteousness. But what happened was a lot of these principalities rebelled. They said, nah, we want them to worship us. Well, actually, no, that was after the flood. Yes, you could say that it was after the flood, but at the same time, they still had to obey Yahuwah. Whether it's righteous principalities or unrighteous principalities, even the canon shows in Deuteronomy 32:8, he put a messenger over every nation to rule them, says to take care of the poor, the needy, the widow. The Watchers, my assumption is that the Watchers were some of the Watchers were originally part of those 70, but obviously there's 200 Watchers, so not all of them were originally rulers of the nations. But when you go into like these extra biblical accounts, it does call them the rulers of the peoples. So whether Yahuwah put them over them at that time period in the pre-flood era, they assessed themselves as their rulers. So they could have also self-appointed themselves. I mean, if they already rebelled against Yahuwah, I wouldn't put it past them that they would do that, because they're already rebelling. They're already willfully sinning against Yahuwah, what they did in Genesis 6. So it's not like it's too far-fetched to think that they wouldn't try to assess that now they're going to rule this kingdom of theirs on earth. Because when you go, not Jubilees, another book. If you go into the legends of the pre-flood era, there's a lot of different extra biblical sources that talk about that. What today people call Atlantis was actually the pre-flood world, and Atlantis was like their kingdom. They, not appointed by Yahuwah, they forced their kingdom among men, and they got men to worship them. And it seems that was the reason later on for idols, graven images, was that now these so-called gods that the pagans worshipped, Poseidon, Zeus, Jupiter, whatever you want to call them, that the Watchers probably had different names that they had people call them to worship them under. Now the Watchers are, are under the pit. They're chained up. They can't be directly worshipped anymore. So once that happened, once the judgment of the Watchers happened, then, you need inanimate objects to worship them through. So hence the creation of idols. So that's according to what people have researched about the whole pre-flood world and all that. So, and how Atlantis, the legends of Atlantis connect with the biblical flood and all that. But yeah, so they pretty much enslaved mankind, you could say, these Watchers. They enslaved them, made them worship them. They considered them to be their rulers and all that. So again, Elohim literally can mean ruler or magistrate. So when Psalms 82 is talking about Yahuwah judges among the Elohim, the context of that is talking about angels. It's not talking about men. And so, and just to show you guys what I'm talking about here real quick before we take our break here, show you what I'm talking about, the divine counsel, Psalms 82 and Deuteronomy 32. Okay. See here, says here in the Peshitta here, Yahuwah stands in the assembly of the angels, and among the angels he will judge. So he's judging angels. So these are angels that rebelled. How long will you vindicate the evil and accept the face of the wicked? Rightly rule the orphans and the afflicted, and rightly rule the poor and the meek. Save the poor and the afflicted from the hand of the wicked. For they have not known, neither are they wise. They have been walking in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are moved. I have said, and this is where a lot of people misunderstand this and get this false Gnostic understanding that men can become gods. This is the problem here. They don't understand. It's not talking about men here. Okay. I have said, you are mighty ones. You are all called children of the highest. Universally in the Old Testament, sons of Adam are never called children of Elohim. Never. It's talking about angels here. Therefore, you will die like the children of men. You will fall like each of the princes. Arise, O Yahuwah, and rightly rule the earth, because you will inherit all the nations. So again, right here, you have the judgment of these principalities originally Yahuwah put over these nations after Genesis 11. Okay, so, and you can go also, a cross-reference for this would be Deuteronomy 32, verse 8 and 9. Now, the Masoretics can be a little weird of this because they change Agelos Theos to B'nai Yisrael, so it completely takes away from this divine counsel concept when you look at the Masoretic. But the Septuagint says, when the Most High divided the nations, when he separated the sons of Adam, Tower of Babel, okay, he set the boundaries of the nations according to the number of the angels of Elohim, and his people Jacob became the portion of Yahuwah. Yasharel became the line of his inheritance. Now, the traditional history on this verse was that you had 70 countries after the Tower of Babel that came forth, 70 languages, 70 countries. So Yahuwah picked out of all the innumerable stars up there of the host of heaven, he picked 70 out of those to rightly rule the countries that came forth from the Tower of Babel, all the pagan nations that came from the Tower of Babel. Now, it seems like when you fast forward to Psalms 82, something happened. These judges decided, we would rather, we would rather have them serve us. We would rather, we want to be in charge. And so, and it seems like that's where the whole idea of basically these nations worshiping them, probably what happened was, these 70 principalities that they did fall, then you would have them, basically getting greedy. They're like, nah, we really don't want to care about, rightly ruling for them and taking their causes up. We just want them to worship us. And you see that in every pantheon, every polytheistic religion. You have these so-called gods on Mount Olympus in the Greek lore, for one example, enslaving humanity, making them worship them. So that's just one example of all the pantheons. When you look at the Roman pantheon, very similar. The Egyptian pantheon, very similar. It's pretty much every nation has a version of that story. So every ancient culture, I should say. So anyway, so hopefully that clears that up, what I'm talking about. So yes, the whole appointing them over the nations happened after the flood, but most likely there was some type of concept of this that Yahuwah already had. He already thought of, that he was going to have to put princes over these nations that would not want to serve him after the flood. So anyway, so that's my thoughts on that. But yeah. So anyway, all right. So we're going to be back shortly. I think we just need to take a minor break. We'll be back shortly, everybody. Shalom. We will be back on, and I think we will be doing the book of Zechariah next. Shabbat shalom, everyone. All right. Just take